No, they didn't say that at all. No.
Is the Rotary owned park or city owned
The
park?
city owns the park. We could have got it there. Would have been great.
Are these the only three
Those are the
options?
only three
Oh,
options.
so they've narrowed it down to three.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ellison.
Right there. That's a huge. What team does it? So you guys raised, so you raised 250 or? Okay, so that's 250 from, what did West Bloomfield cost? Really? Is that right? So 500 both of them. Almost, almost.
to make this possible. So thank you, Mary Jane, for your incredible work. Let's give her a round of applause. And then we've got Vern Gustafson here, who is the city's director or manager of planning. We have Alex Warrengesser, who does all of the city's grant work here, and has been really instrumental, along with Vern and Mary Jane, in identifying possible locations for the skate park, securing funding from the county and from other entities for the skate park. And I'm going to use this because I'm guessing that we may be on city TV, and without this, my voice won't be able to get picked up. So again, just to reiterate, we're honored to be joined by Alex Borngesser, Vern Gustafson, and Mary Jane. I'm going to be bouncing between this hearing and another meeting that's going on simultaneously, so I'll be in and out here. But we've got great people who will be recording and taking down all of your comments, all of your suggestions, all of your ideas, again, about the location of the skate park between Oakland Park, Galloway Lake Park, and Richardson Park, but also about what amenities you'd like to see go in alongside the skate park in terms of parking, in terms of lighting, and other needed ancillary improvements. And without further ado, I'm going to allow Alex to present. I think, Alex, you're going to be doing a presentation about the basic concept of the skate park and perhaps some of the pluses and minuses of some of these locations. Before we kick things off, any questions about the format? Yes, sir. Mr. Robert Bass. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the question for those who may be watching online or via the city's TV channel was, is this park going to remain a city park? And the answer is absolutely. This is about improving city parkland. All three of these locations are city parks. Locating and making the improvement of the skate park here will not change that. The property will continue to be owned by the city of Pontiac. And without further ado, Alex, why don't you go ahead and kick things off. Thank you all for being here. Like I said, I'll be in and out throughout the course of the meeting. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming. This is an exciting time and a wonderful project for the city of Pontiac. Our objective for this meeting today is to talk about the various site options and the various parks that will hopefully and eventually become home to this beautiful skate park and this beautiful piece of city infrastructure. The meeting format is a small presentation from those of us up here and a special guest from the skate park project, formerly known as the Tony Hawk Foundation, who will be introducing the funder and his organization. And then we'll go into question and answer, kind of a casual conversation and discussion about the various sites, and we can answer anyone's questions or concerns. Following that, we will talk about next steps. What does this project mean? Deadlines, how long do we have, and what sort of steps are we taking throughout the course of this planning process? And then we'll go into a breakout activity and kind of independent discussion. So you'll notice on your chairs you have quite a few things. Pens that you need to scribble to get them to work, so give them a little scribble. You have a packet with pages from the Parks and Rec master plan for each of the proposed or suggested parks. You have a small survey that I request that you fill out so I can get your feedback if perhaps you're not somebody who likes to raise your hand, which is sometimes me, so I prefer to write, so you have that there. And then there are a couple of sticky notes. And so after we're done with our question and answer session, we'll all get up and we can put our thoughts and ideas on any of the boards that represent each of the parks that are being suggested here. So you can write your ideas and place your preference on the board, and we'll be able to have a visual display of the personal preference for site selection in this room. So does that sound okay to everybody? Great. Excellent. So first, I'll pass it over to Mary Jane Rennie. As the mayor said, Mary Jane is really the owner of this project. She engaged with the community and kind of built this project from the ground up, engaging with activists and really doing the hard work of community organizing. And so she's going to talk about some of the community activism that went around this project, how it started, where it came from, and her hopes and dreams for the Pontiac Skate Park.
Hello, everyone. I am not the initial initiator of this skate park. Right there is Mike Pena, and I eavesdropped on him and a conversation with Trevor Staples in the Alley Cat Cafe about a skate park. And because of my community organization work here, and my connections to people in the parks department, like Councilwoman James, and well, not that we had a department, but and some of my community work with advocacy with kids and things. I wanted to help them get the right pieces together. So we had a meeting with Councilwoman Taylor Brooks, and that's when stuff really started going. We had community engagement that brought in, the mayor's office at the time, and many other community advocates and skateboarders mostly. So after we did all that, Trevor explained to us how we were going to get the grant, what the process looked like. We started putting, boots to the ground, and we got a fiscal sponsor. We used Oakland County Sheriff Powell because of their already active participation in youth programs, and they were willing. So once we got our fiscal sponsor, we were able to start raising funds in a legitimate and cohesive and structured way, just to show the Grant Foundation that we meant business. We wanted this grant. So we held skate jams. We built a fundraising package, all of the stuff that you can think of in order to raise money and awareness. We went out and got signatures of support at the Arts Crawl or the bike-a-thons and anything that was in the community that we could really get the kids' opinions outside of the skate community. The skate community was backing it already. So after that happened, we just sort of let it kind of take control. We have giant donors that put in. McLaren has put in a significant amount. Pastor Jones was instrumental in getting the awareness out to certain organizations and he encouraged them to donate, and they did. And so here we are, $70,000 later, and then Alex comes in and helps me get the city to help pay for the rest of that. So I'll let you go into those details.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Mary Jane's not giving herself enough credit. Projects like this don't happen overnight. It's little by little, and this is really the most beautiful display of community meets city government meets county government, and everyone working together to kind of fulfill this dream and this mission. So this is a beautiful example of when everyone works together, how great it can be. And that can actually be displayed on this next slide. You'll see the project support. So you'll see the various funding, what I call buckets of funding. You'll see that the skate park project provided the matching grant to the tune of $250,000. They also provided another $50,000 for sustainability and environmental measures around the construction of the park. The community activist group, which is Mary Jane, the skate community, raised $70,000. The city of Pontiac contributed $55,000, and then plus the site and the location and any amenities that come along with the park. And the Oakland County Board of Commissioners put in $125,000. This totals $550,000 for a state-of-the-art, concrete, 10,000 square foot free public skate park. So that's a very, very exciting number. Next, I will turn it over to Trevor Staples, who is actually on the screen. I'll switch it over to him so that he can introduce the funder and the skate park project and talk a little bit about who they are and what they do.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I'm Trevor Staples. I'm the Bills Play skate park manager for the skate park project. We have a regional series of grants throughout Southeast Michigan and Western New York, funded by the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation. And the city of Pontiac is going to be the recipient of one of our grants, which we're really excited about. I'm right now out in West New York, so just let me know if my video gets a little choppy, and I can just switch to all audio. live in Ann Arbor. I'm from Michigan. One of the reasons that I was hired for this job was because I do know the communities pretty well, being from here. And what we do at the Skate Park Project is we help support communities that are underserved in many different kinds of ways. Our goal is not to come in and make decisions for communities, but help support the decisions that communities make as far as helping their young people get active and have free recreation and free play. As you've probably seen from the pandemic, team sports are on the decline, and individual free play is on the rise. Skateboarding is one of those things. Even though in Pontiac there was a large number of skateboarders, BMXers in the community before the pandemic. So I'll be here throughout the whole project, and I was going to say some things about the project, but they've already been said. So Mary Jane is one of the people, without her this wouldn't have happened. She's been great all the way. She's been the most stressed one all along the way, and done the most work, I think. And thanks to Alex and the city and the county, also Oakland County has stepped in, and like Alex, this is the kind of we like to see, where it's a real collaborating between many different entities, public and private, to get something like this done for young people in the community. So I'll be here all through the project over the next year or two. Even after that, when it comes to programming at the skate park to help with that, we're here to offer technical support. Yes, we have the $300,000 that we're putting in, but technical support is what we're experts at to help make sure this is a successful project for the city. And I can see my face not that hot.
Very good.
Thanks so much, Trevor. Yes, and now I'm going to switch it back to the presentation. Sorry, Taj, for making you do all of that. Back up after we're done. Here's Tosh to save the day again. So next, I'll turn it over to Vern. Vern is the city planner and is kind of the owner of all knowledge around the Parks and Rec master plan. And he's going to talk to you about the 3 sites that we are proposing for this park to be located in, and a little bit about why we're looking at each. So Vern, go ahead.
Very good. Well, thank you. Well, I'm pretty humbled in regards to being honored to work with 2 great women here and also this community. As the mayor indicated, we worked very hard along with members of Oakland County Planning and Economic Development, my friends over at the DNR, my friends over actually at the Michigan EDC, Dominic Romano in the back of the room there. Say hello to everybody. All that support allowed us to finally complete the plan and get it certified by the DNR. And I can't say how thrilled I am to continue to plan and construct the first new recreational facility in one of our city parks since that plan has been adopted and approved and certified by many agencies and organizations. I'm thrilled. And when you look at it from the standpoint of that this document, that was undertaken a little bit before I started here, and I started like in June of 2018. We were able to get it to the finish line with many, many supporters of the county and Oakland University and so forth to get it done and getting in front of council that they voted on for approval and getting onto the DNR. And as you can imagine, with 580 square miles 530 acres of land area that's city parks in the city. There's 40 parks that our DPW and planning and grants and supporters of the Parks and Recreation here in the city of Pontiac are trying to figure out what ways we can improve upon certain facilities. So as part of that plan, we took a look at very closely, and in your packet you'll see very closely as part of select sheets from that, there was definitely the Galloway Lake, Oakland Park, both of them what we consider neighborhood or community parks. When you look at planning for parks, you kind of look as a community park is kind of defined within an area that you're kind of a radius of roughly a half a mile to 3 miles, knowing the fact that that demographic and that type of neighborhoods would come to that neighborhood community park because of its facilities and the like. So we have Oakland and we have Galloway Lake, which we classify as community parks. Richardson is classified as much more of a neighborhood park. So that one there is you're looking at a smaller neighborhood because it's focused in regards to the identity and the significance of that neighborhood. Roughly down to a quarter to a half a mile radius is kind of the service area for our neighborhood park. And importantly is that as part of the project and working with Mary Jane at the very beginning, we looked at Richardson very closely because of its location to downtown and other facilities and the visual cue in regards to on M59 and Paddock, which are major roadways that would be near that park. Same thing with Galloway Lake, looking at other types of improvements that are existing or planned in that area, that being the North Spur Trail as part of the Clinton River Trail, a planned trailhead that would be located there, looking at existing parking that is located there at Galloway Lake, and then also taking a closer look at, as the mayor mentioned, another park which became Oakland Park, which also identifies a potential location for a new skate park, was located at Oakland Park for our 3 alternatives. Not that the other parks had any faults to them, but we wanted to narrow it down in regards to, again, from my standpoint, and I think the community standpoint, we try to plan for what we have on the books and try to mimic that plan and move it forward. And so with this first facility here to develop and construct a state-of-the-art skate park project is going to be phenomenal in my mind, and I think it's equally important for that neighborhood or that community aspect of what that could also bring in the future with Alex and also Mary Jane's expertise in regards to getting others involved and getting that support. We can see so many other opportunities, not just skate parks, but other opportunities within those parks in our community. And I want to thank everybody here, and thank you for the community for your input. That one.
Great. Thanks, Vern. So at this time, as Vern mentioned, we're looking at those 3 parks. So that's Galloway Lake Park, Oakland Park, and Richardson Park. And so I'd like to open it up for questions, concerns, advocacy, if you have any, and any questions for the 3 of us that you might have about this site selection, or just your opinion. So anyone who is interested, the microphone at the podium does work so that the folks at home can listen in on streaming. So if you have a question, you can just step up to the podium.
Good evening. I'll take the first one. I don't mind. My first question is, when you're speaking of Galloway Lake, the location. Now, there was discussion about having that turned into park and recreation for children. And if that's still a plan, then where would the location be for the skate portion? I know that there's no definitive answer for that right now, but is there a particular area that you have designated in that park where you would possibly put that skate park?
I can be able to answer that question here.
Thank you.
Okay. So here we have, this is Perry up here, and we have the Ewald Center, and all of these little square dots represent existing facilities that are there. It could be tennis courts, soccer fields, fishing pier, and other things along Galilee Lake. What we were looking at, and we were just playing around with the various locations. The skate park is roughly 10,000 square feet. So you're looking at 100 by 100 square. And we know that there's parking needed and so forth. So we played around with a little bit of diagrams, and we were looking at it down in this area here where we're not going to disturb any of the existing park facilities that we would hope in the future would be renovated and improved and located within this open area without disturbing any of the vegetation. And also, that being the North Spur, the plan is to also look at a trailhead. So we're looking at a parking area for not just the trailhead, but it also could be for the skate park project. So that was our thought in that location. Good question. Thank you.
So did you address the first part of the question, that there was going to be a project there from
There,
this area?
yeah, the Ewald Center, how we identified it in regards to the renovation of the Ewald Center was to be renovated. We didn't say what it would be, but just in regards to renovation. So that would be a future project that we would be looking at, yes.
But it's not a part of this $550,000 funding.
No, not whatsoever.
I'd like to ask a question as it relates to the Oakland Park, and I'm looking at the notes, and it says here that there's an area under the playground equipment that floods. Is in the plan a plan to alleviate that flooding?
So this grant is for the construction of the skate park only, but in knowing that our objective is to redevelop and renovate the park, whichever site we choose, looking at other needs in the park that we choose is certainly a part of our plan. And so we have heard concerns from residents for a number of reasons for any of the three parks. Someone even mentioned that there's a small amount of parking in Oakland Park, and I feel strongly that if we raised $500,000 plus to construct a skate park, we could certainly raise money to pave a new parking lot, to find resources to renovate the restrooms, to alleviate some of the flooding in the play structure that you've mentioned. Grantsmanship and fundraising is kind of it's kind of a chicken or egg kind of situation, right? You bring in attention to one particular project and it starts to get more and more attention. And so it's my objective to continue fundraising for further improvements to whichever site location, and truly all of our parks, but whichever site location we do end up choosing for the skate park to alleviate some of these same issues.
But I would think that that could be a major concern, and I would think that if we plan, as an example, if that park was accepted, which I think is a great area, we ought to have a foresight plan of saying how we would stop the flooding.
And are you referring to the flooding in the skate park, in the actual physical skate park itself?
Well, it says Oakland Park, and on my sheet here, the notes, it says the former fire station on the corner of Glenwood and Montcalm was split from the park. Some of it was sold, and it says the area under the playground equipment floods.
Correct. So the funds for this particular project can only be used for the construction of the skate park itself.
And I understand it. I'm just thinking that as a city, we may need to make sure, because I'd hate to put something there and then all of a sudden you run into the other problem. Vern, you may check that out. Thank you.
Very good point.
Yes.
Can I just interject there? It's Trevor Staples from the Skater Project.
Uh-oh.
Can you
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
hear me okay?
Oh yeah. Very well.
$50,000 of our grant is separate for sustainable features and practices in the skate park. Typically, what we do is look at stormwater management first. So if the park is flooding now, probably what you'll see happen is there will be zero stormwater runoff from the skate park. So it might even already be a little better, the flooding aspect of the park, once the skate park is built. Because with our sustainability grant, the Environmental Impact Award, the first thing we look at is stormwater management and making sure that there's zero runoff from the skate park. So there is that piece added into our grant as well.
Thank you.
Good evening. Lucy Payne, District 5, and first of all, thank you, the committee, and Alex, and just the whole team for actually working so hard on getting this fund. And we in District 5 have been working for probably about 10 years now, trying to get Galloway Park in an area where we could actually have children to play, because there's so many apartments around that area. But I'm not going to say that that's the park that we should choose, because what I would like for us to do first is to see, is there any data that's collected, in regards to the number of youth that are in these areas, and which I think that if we look at that, we could see how many youth are in the Galloway area, how many youth are in the Richardson Park area in Oakland, because we want to make sure that we're doing some things that's going to help to keep our youth off the streets, and especially during the summers. So that would be one of the questions that I have.
I can answer that. So I worked really closely with Jennifer Lucarelli over at Oakland University, and she also was like the big mastermind behind the Parks and Rec plan.
Mm-hmm.
She often works with Healthy Pontiac We Can and getting kids active, and also she was sitting on the board for Oakland County Sheriff PAL. So when her and I discussed how do we get to the most kids, how do we make it mostly accessible, we thought Galloway Lake, simply because it's right across the street from the high school and middle school.
And a lot of apartments.
Right, and a lot of apartments, and it's so spacious. We won't have to knock anything down to build it. It's got great parking, and it became like one of those like, the kids will be able to ride their bikes through the bike lanes over there and go from school to park, right? And like that was kind of like where we were at. Last week we had a meeting and we were discussing like locality and centralness, right? And it was kind of brought to my attention that Galloway is kind of like up and out of there, right? So like there's not a lot of like reasons for anybody around the city to go up that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, what? Oh, and then it became kind of like which one is actually more centrally located in the city, and Oakland is that part. I think that concern about Galloway, yeah, absolutely, I'm with you on that. And the proximity to the high school and middle school is like prime. Mm-hmm. But not all the kids go to Pontiac schools. We have to be honest about that. Mm-hmm. And providing access to like more of a central location might be a better plan. Mm-hmm. But I do like your thoughts on Galloway.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
One of the other considerations we made in the same conversation last week was that that Oakland Park is a place where folks already know has a skate park. They already know to go there. They already know how to get there. They have developed, if they're the type of kid that rides their bike to the park, they've developed a safe route to get there. And so we're creatures of habit, and so we thought it might be kind of, for lack of a better word, comforting to have the skate park located in the place that it has always been, so that it feels like home to folks who have been skating in kind of this makeshift skate park already. And so that was one of the other topics we discussed earlier this week. Go ahead.
Kathy Desro, District 5. I have a couple of questions. One, the former administration told us that Galloway was only partly owned by the city and partly owned by the county. Andy Meisner corroborated that, and that needs to be looked into if we're thinking of developing Galloway, which I would love to see developed, but if we don't own it all, we have a problem.
My understanding is that the county, in regards to the Water Resource Commission, in regards to building that pump station. My understanding is that the Water Resource Commission owns where that pump station is located, and the rest of it is owned by the city. The Ewalt Center was split off as a parcel, but that's still owned by the city.
Okay, well, I'm not sure that the county knows that.
Okay.
Because they tell us something different.
Okay.
The other thing, Oakland is not that far from Galloway. It's a mile and a half away. So, I mean, if we're talking Galloway's too far out, it's not that far from Oakland.
No, it's not that far. You're right, but it is more centrally located out of the three parks.
Good afternoon. A couple of facts. I just want a yes or no. So, is there not a skate park in Auburn Hill that is less than 1.5 miles away from Galloway? Is there already
There, yeah.
Okay, that's a yes. So why would we then build a skate park in Pontiac when there is already a skate park 1.5 miles away from Galloway Lakes? Okay, so number two, I'm sorry, I'll wait. Melanie Rutherford, District 1. Number two, Oakland isn't essentially lined where the buses can get to them closely because of the line, the way that the bus route run, and if they do the rerouting, wouldn't it then be effective for the children to have to ride the bus from the south side or the east side because the buses wouldn't run out on the outskirts where Perry is, where Galloway? Wouldn't that affect it? Okay,
Yeah.
that's two. And then the third one is this, because of where Oakland is and where it's located, and we have kids from the south side and the east side who skate too, wouldn't that be closer for them to get there than it would be to go to Galloway? Okay.
Correct.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mel.
I'd also love to hear from the skate community. I know there are a few of you here today. If you have a personal preference for the site selection, I hate to put you on the spot, but you're awfully quiet, and you will likely be the ones who will be using this park. So I'd love to hear from you if you, because I certainly am not going to be hopping on a skateboard anytime soon. So if you have a personal preference for the site of this park.
David Rennie, District 2, skateboarder, part of the project. I like the idea of Oakland, and if that site is kind of the front runner, I'd almost like there kind of be a deal with the city that we would not switch it to the DIY park. I would like the DIY park to stay. I think that's very valuable to the members of the skate community here. It does still have a lot of potential. I know it's really rough right now, but I think with some fundraising efforts, we could really do a lot with that particular parcel, as well as the benefit of having a brand new skate park inside the same park. I think that could be really useful and very helpful, because we could kind of redirect and help maybe developmental skateboarding at the DIY park, and then, have more of a plaza style. And that way everybody gets to use everything, and there's a lot of space for everybody to skate and not have to worry about that overcrowding that a lot of newer parks see.
Great. So for those of us who are not technical, could you describe what types of different activities might happen in the new skate park, which has, and forgive my lack of vernacular, but bowls and ramps and things like that, versus the kind of makeshift park that you have now? What types of activities might occur in either of those places, and which one would be tailored more towards beginners, skaters, or intermediate versus more experienced?
as of right now, it's kind of hard to say because we have so much work to do with whoever is actually going to make this skate park. What I would like to see might differ from what other people want, but I would like to see the park we're building to be geared towards beginners, so that way our community can grow. And if it is at Oakland Park, which there is a pretty big space of land on the southwest the southwest corner of that park, that means we could grow that park as these kids grow up with it. That's kind of what I would like to see. The DIY park now, it's really a crapshoot. The cool thing about it is if you do skateboard, and you really can just go buy a bag of cement, some cinder blocks, and just make something. That's kind of the benefit of that park, is because it does lend to a lot of creativity and kind of learning new skills as far as like construction goes. That's usually the kind of the interesting part about a DIY park.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben Clark. So you called on skateboarders to kind of voice their opinions, so I'll try to help you out there. I think one thing that may be missed kind of in people, or as we're all trying to imagine what is the skate park going to look like, who's going to be using it. When I'm at, say, Riverside in Southwest Detroit or Chandler Park, just so everyone's aware, the typical user that makes up the majority of the people there is probably between male and female, between the age of like 16 and their mid-20s. So just to kind of wrap your brain around who is your major park user, that's not to say that there aren't kids there learning. Young kids, we're all learning together. But the people who are there day in and day out do tend to be a little bit older than most people were probably imagining in their head when they're thinking of a skate park. So I think that's an important point to consider. Another thing is that skateboarding has changed so much. I'm 38 years old. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and my kids skateboard. My wife does want to go to a beautiful park. She wants to hang out alongside us. She does know how to skateboard, but she's not really going to utilize those facilities. But I think that's something else that should be considered, in terms of how it looks in a neighborhood. When my kids were younger, it would have been really, really nice if there were play structures around. A lot of skateboard parks get thrown in a situation where there's no trees, no shade. That's obviously when they're young and stuff, that's terrible. It's very frustrating. And I know we're going to be looking at these things to ask a little bit, or actually to kind of field that question about like, what does DIY park skateboarding look different to skateboarding in a skateboard park? There's some interesting things about skateboarding. When it comes to you taking photos or filming videos, it's considered acceptable to use that footage in a DIY park, but not considered generally acceptable to use skate park footage to like kind of push your brain forward. So, amongst expert skateboarders, they really try, they learn at a skateboard park, but they need it to be on a real facility like a DIY or in the streets or something like that. So when you're looking at like marketing and kind of like the esteem of a skateboarder, there's a higher esteem in a DIY style spot, it's interesting. It's not something you probably have confronted before, but it exists, so we might as well talk about it. And then another thing, I really do want to echo that concern about Galloway Lake being so close to the Auburn Hills Park. There is really an existing park that is extremely close. I do understand some of the advantages to it, but that to me it sends red flags. It's like, why would you, if we're going to we put so much effort in, why would we be doing this? We haven't really talked about Richardson Park very much. I did have some questions on that. Is that park really large enough to facilitate the size of park we're talking about? Is there room for ample parking? I think we need to be looking at exactly how much use these parks can get. If again, I'm going to go back to Southwest Detroit and say, we're talking about similar size, similar scope. We should really be looking at what they're up to. On a Saturday, sometimes you have 100 people in that park. This is something, and it's not only Detroit residents. It's definitely Detroit residents, but it's people coming from all over Southeast Michigan. So these are real important concerns. I personally love the proximity to downtown that Richardson offers. But I do see some of the challenges with it too. It's not like, I don't think any one of these three is like a complete slam dunk. I'll say that first, get that out of the way. But, I really do like that Richardson's closer to downtown, and we need to be looking at, a 10 to 20 year lens, because these are permanent cement parks. They last a really, really long time. How is Pontiac, it's just hard to imagine, but how different is Pontiac going to look? We're talking about getting rid of the Woodward Loop. There's just some radical shifts that we need to be imagining. And to me, in my gut, it says Richardson Park might be a really cool spot. But that being said, I'm not against Oakland either. I do worry that it will kind of cannibalize some of that DIY park. It's like, Pontiac could have two parks, but it feels a little bit weird to put them all at the same location. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Thank you.
For sharing your comments. And just to address a couple of things. One, parking is certainly an issue. It's not something we're unaware of. I really appreciate all of what you said, kind of having redevelopment or thinking about the park as a whole for the person utilizing the skate park. Obviously, shaded areas and play structures and pavilions and working restrooms and parking. But I think parking is our first issue to tackle. And that's not only just for the skate park. There are basketball courts in that park as well. I know the neighboring community has spoken up about the lack of parking there for that activity already. So it's not a new concern. It's something we really should, it's a problem we should solve anyways. And so I'll take the next question.
Sorry, I forgot this question. Lucy Payne again, District 5. One of the things I wanted to know if I'm looking around, and normally when we're planning, and especially planning things for our youth, how do we get them to be engaged? And I think that one of the things is that if we take a little questionnaire to the schools within the city and have them to choose or to say what they would like, and we could have the principals of those schools to actually be in charge of making sure that during assembly time that they have these little things like this. Vote for a favorite park, for a skate park, or something like that. That way we can get them engaged. And not only that, it collaborates with the school system. And so I think that would be, I know that's a little, and I think that getting volunteers to assist with that would be one of the ways of doing that. One of the other things is that will there be like some way that youth that don't have a skating board, is there anything in the plan that would assist in having loaners or leases or rentals or something for our youth?
Yeah. Okay. I would love to answer these questions. So your first one was about, sorry, I have ADHD. What was it?
It's about engaging
Assembly, yes. Okay, so what we did last year to engage with the youth was, and a lot of the youth are here too, so they live here, all these skaters. What we did was we created a program partnering with Main Street Pontiac to teach kids how to build skateboards, and then they got to keep them. And they were given helmets and gift certificates, and it was part of the STEAM program to get kids to engage with with science and technology. You know what STEAM is. So when we did that, we were able to get a lot of donors to produce. We got 40 kids skateboards, all middle and high school, and lived in Pontiac. So we intend to do that again, I believe, but I'm not sure on that yet.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask, if this is an ongoing project.
Well, it kind of switched over because of the pandemic. We were doing something called the Pontiac Phoenix Races, where they build soapbox derby cars and race them. But because they couldn't work in teams because of the pandemic, we decided to switch over and help this organization that's been trying to get more community involvement. And really, you can't get kids to be interested in skating if they don't have equipment. So that was part of our advocacy to get those boards in the hands of kids.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome.
So, Certainly, programming is something we've been thinking about throughout this process. The skate park will be in a city park and should absolutely be part of the city parks and recreation program, especially our youth rec program, figuring out how to bring kids out to a skate park like this if and when it exists. And by that I really mean when it exists. This is not just a park for skateboarding, as I've discussed with others. It can be used for aggressive inline skating, and I think the new kind of scooters and things like that as well. So there'll be a way to get lots of different people involved, as well as roller skating. And so there are plenty of opportunities for us to build programming through our youth rec program and various other organizations to bring kids out to the skate park, to teach them to skate, and to provide them with the necessary safety equipment to do so.
Yes, good evening. My name is Rick David. I live in District 1. You're beginning to kind of get at my question. So I assume there was a needs assessment of some sort that was done at the front end of this whole enterprise, that you understood what the need was, that you understood the demographics of Pontiac, 60% African American, 20% Hispanic, 20% white. What is this current skate community? Does it reflect the demographics of the city? And then you're beginning to talk about costs and what are costs for getting skates and other kinds of things that might be of interest. So I'm just sort of interested in the needs assessment. The front end, way long ago before you raised the money, I'm assuming that you were cognizant of the demographics of this city, that it may not be similar to Troy and interest there. When, just as an older guy, I would just say when I think of skateboarding, I think of suburban white people from 14 to 28 or something like that. I don't see, and I've looked at, I live by Pontiac Central High School, and people have done some skating up and down for 20 years that I've lived there. I very seldom see the demographic profile of Pontiac in front of the Pontiac Central skating.
Sure.
So that's just a question that I have.
Great. Yeah. So this project actually came from the community. This was not, as we mentioned at the front end, this was not at the beginning a city-facilitated project. Really, the skate community here in Pontiac felt that there was a need for a skate park here, and rallied and organized themselves to secure the funding for this project. So the need was really brought out from the community itself, and I think that's pretty profound.
If you look at the Parks and Recreation Plan, it's been quite, especially in the back end of the report, gets into that demographics. It also talks about health. It talks about obesity, and all of those factors that represents our community in some ways. And so, by getting people more options in regards to activities and physical activities to improve that health and well-being of individuals, I think that's critical also.
I'm going to let Trevor speak on this because he has all the demographic data that you could want. But I will tell you this, that there are members of this community that are diverse. Councilwoman Rutherford's daughter skates with me. These kids skate. Mike, you go ahead and say what you need to say, but whenever Trevor's ready.
Oh, well, if Trevor wants to go first, that's fine. But yeah, the community is diverse. There's a pretty large community in Pontiac that skateboards, and the ages range from, I don't know, like five and up. A lot of teens and people in their early 20s. As far as location, though, I was kind of hard to decide on Galloway and Oakland Park because of the pros and cons. Like Galloway's kind of ducked off, kind of hard to see from the streets, but it also has like the least amount of like neighborhood interference. It's, it could be like by itself. It's away from, and it has room to expand there basically. Like Galloway has a lot of space for parking and to grow the park. Like how Ben was saying earlier, like at the park Riverside in Detroit, there are a lot of people that go there in the summer. So I need to think about that for when, like next summer when that comes around. It could be a big park. Oakland is also really great because, there's also room there to expand and room for that to grow. Having both parks there would be really cool. I do think like long term, like having two parks and like just kind of integrating the like showing that DIY culture is around and just having two, I think is really great for the long term. I am concerned though because I know people like in the community would like to see Oakland Park like wiped clean and started over. But I am concerned about that coming out of our funds from the grant. I feel like it would take a big chunk out of our grant money to build the biggest park we can build. But it's really hard to decide on either of these parks. I think they're both great. But yeah, my top two are Oakland and Galloway.
So we have about 4 more minutes, so we'll take a couple more comments, and then we can get up and have kind of one-on-one conversation and dialogue, and perhaps place some of our questions or concerns on the survey card, or place them on the sticky notes, and put them up on the various parks, the boards that are listed or stood up in the back. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Robert Bass. I'm Director of Assistant District Council in District 1, and as far as the children goes or the young people goes, young people have a different mindset than we did when we came up, and that's what I'm lacking right here is an audience of younger folks with a different mindset. A lot of them do skateboard. They do a lot of other things that we didn't do before. So I just want to throw that out there. But I'm also kind of locked when I don't have a diagram of the particular skate park that you're presenting. Because my thing is, no matter what development we do, I hope we stop developing pocket programs and develop something that has expansion time and that can be expanded, like the gentleman was talking about. It might be for youth right now, but the adults like to do various daredevil moves or whatever. So I like to see it. And I would also like to see that there's room for expansion after we develop it. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great question.
One note on that, I think it lends itself to a good point, which is that this is not our last opportunity to do this, and until the end of time, right? We have an entire Parks and Rec master plan that outlines all the recommended park renovations and upgrades and improvements and redevelopments that we hope for all of our parks, all the way from community park down to pocket park or mini park. And so we're hoping to find resources to redevelop and improve our parks in lots of different ways. So this is not our only and our last opportunity to talk about skating in our public spaces, or to talk about beautification or redevelopment of our public parks and spaces. Go ahead.
I'm Rich Lund, and I don't know what district I'm in because I didn't know I was supposed to know that today. But I live at 37 Lexington, and I am Switzerland on this. I'm neutral because I only recently moved here, and I don't think I have enough information to choose such a location. But I do want to just celebrate that we have such a park coming. And whichever park location it winds up being, I just want to give the community some trust that it's really a mentorship way to have skateboarding be something that's taught to the youth. Anytime I've gone to a skate park growing up, it's been unlike any other sport or activity where there's nothing but open hands there. There's people who are there to teach you. We all remember what it was like to first try to learn some of these tricks and how difficult it can be. So if there's any concern about like amount of equipment, if they keep coming back, we have extra skateboards, we let them ride. They keep coming back enough, we give them that skateboard. I mean, I would not have concerns about that. We're not buying pads and helmets for them, but the skateboard equipment, if a kid wants to skate, we got a way to make them skate, for sure. Thank you.
I didn't mention my name before, so I guess I should since everybody else is. I'm Pastor Jones, and I want to thank Rick for raising the question, but let me quell any concerns. The church spent $250,000 to renovated his parking lot, and I think we renovated it for the skateboarders. Because we have a bunch of kids that are there, from the neighborhoods, and we have another building where the skateboarders have learned to slide down the banisters, slide down the steps, and so I think that we would not have a demographic situation. I think that it would be open to everyone to have that skate park, and if my mind takes me back to when I was a youngster, I think that some of us remember when we made skateboards ourselves out of orange crates and grapefruit crates. So I think we're on it.
I just wanted to add something to what Mr. Davis said. There's a group called Black Girls Skate, which is located in the southeastern Michigan. It has one of the largest populations of African Americans that actually do participate in skating. And you can look it up on www.blackgirlskates.com. The reason why I mention that is oftentimes what they do is in impoverished areas is they donate skates and skateboards. So I'm pretty sure because of the partnerships that you have, that's one of the people you guys are hoping that you will pursue. My last comment is this. Wherever the skate party is, it's going to make a difference in our community and the lives. It has shown statistically that skating helps deal with depression, low self-esteem, and things of that nature. So it's not just about skating. It's about the wherewithal and the overall enhancement and improvement for the lives daily. So I fully support whichever decision you make, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that there are African American programs that are geared towards African American students and or especially girls. Thank you.
No.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. What I'd like to do now. Oh, Trevor. Trevor's trying to say something. Yes, go ahead, Trevor.
Internet connection is kind of bad, but as far as the design goes, lots of people have mentioned the design. One of the things that will happen is when a designer is hired, they'll be required to do at least 2 design charrettes with the community. So community members will be invited to come out and have their say in what the features of the skate park and the design are. So we'll, to the schools and things like that, we'll want to make sure we get as many people involved as possible in those design charrettes. I've seen as few as 25, as much as hundreds of people involved in these design charrettes to have input to make sure the skate park is as successful as possible.
Thanks so much, Trevor. So with that, I just want to keep in time integrity. I said we would be done at 7, so I want to make sure everyone gets home to their families and to dinner. But if you would stick around for some one-on-one conversation, we can all get to know each other and answer some one-on-one questions about the skate park. Again, if you have the little green sticky that I put on your chair, you're welcome to write a note or just simply stick it on the park of your choice, and we can have a visual display of where everyone's at with the park selection. And then there are also these surveys, and if you have those completed, you can just put them up here on the blue table or hand it to me and I'll put it in my pocket. I would love to hear any of your thoughts or concerns about the skate park in written form as well. So thanks so much for coming and have a great evening.